America once built its most secret aircraft out of metal it bought from the Soviet Union. The same aircraft was designed to fly over the Soviet Union and photograph it. That is not a rumor. It is how the airplane got built. Guess how they did it without anybody noticing? They set up companies that looked like ordinary buyers in countries nobody would question. Those companies bought the metal quietly for years and shipped it home. But the part that matters is not the trick, it is why they had no choice. And that same problem is sitting inside almost everything you own right now. Start with what happens to an airplane that flies 3 times the speed of sound. It is not the engine that limits you, it is the air itself. At that speed, the air does not slide past the metal, it piles up and heats it. Parts of the skin get hot enough to cook on. Aluminum, which almost every aircraft is made of, gets soft long before that. So the whole airframe had to be built from something that stays strong when it is hot. That something was titanium, and titanium has an unpleasant personality. It is hard to cut, it catches fire as dust, and it destroys ordinary tools. Engineers had to invent new machines just to shape it. Now the awkward part. Titanium is not rare in the ground, it is everywhere. What is rare is ore clean enough and a supply chain that can actually deliver it. In the early 1960s, one country had by far the most reliable supply. Guess which one?
The Soviet Union, the exact country the aircraft was being built to watch. So the choice was simple, and it was not really a choice. Either give up the aircraft or buy the metal from the people it was aimed at. They bought the metal. Front companies in third countries placed ordinary orders year after year. Nobody on the selling side knew. Nobody on the buying side was allowed to say. And the aeroplane that spent 2 decades watching the Soviet Union was partly made of it. That still sounds like a spy story, so make it small enough to feel. You open a restaurant, and your entire reputation is one dish. That dish needs one ingredient that only one supplier in town sells well. Guess who owns that supplier? The restaurant across the road, your only real competitor. Every plate you sell puts money in their pocket, and on any morning they choose, they can raise your cost or stop selling to you. You are not in charge of your own kitchen, you just have not found out yet. Now scale that back up to a country building the aircraft it depends on. Here's why this is not a history lesson. Look at what's inside the phone in your hand right now. A small set of metals with names most people have never said out loud. They go into the magnets, the screens, the batteries, and the motors. Most of the world's refining of those metals happens in one country. Not the mining, the refining, which is the part that actually matters. Digging the rock up is the easy half. Turning it into usable material is the hard half. And a country that controls the hard half controls the whole thing. It is the same shape as titanium, 60 years later, with different names on the boxes. Guess what happens the first time that supply is used as leverage instead of a business? Every company learns this eventually, usually the expensive way. There is a difference between buying something and depending on it. Buying is fine. Somebody sells it, you pay, and if they stop, you find another seller. Depending is when there is no other seller, and you have already built your business on it. The moment you cross that line, your costs stop being yours. They belong to whoever is on the other end. That is why big companies pay more than they need to for a second supplier. From the outside, it looks like waste. It is not waste. It is rent on the right to say no. And the price of not paying it is that one day somebody else decides what you charge. So look at what America actually learned from that airplane. Not how to machine titanium, although it learned that too. It learned that the most dangerous part of a supply chain is the part nobody looks at.
Nobody worried about the metal. Everybody worried about the radar and the engines. The metal was just a purchase order. Guess which part of the project would have stopped it dead if it had been cut off? The purchase order.
Today, the same countries that argue about weapons quietly argue about refineries. Because the thing you cannot build yourself is the thing somebody else can switch off. And when it gets switched off, you do not find out slowly. You find out on a Tuesday, in an email, from a supplier who is very sorry. America solved it once with shell companies and a lot of patience. That trick only works while the other side does not know what they are selling. Nobody is going to be fooled twice. Which leaves exactly one option, and it is the expensive one. Build the boring part yourself before you find out how much you needed it.